Okay, so tell me about the photography that you're kind of getting into.
Like, why or just?
Sure, why?
Well, honestly, I think like coming out of being on the tools for like 5 years and like building houses and just kind of recognizing that it was like a day to day thing. You know, you wake up and you put on the same dirty pair of boots, same dirty pair of clothes, and go work around the mud and tread your feet. And you know, it's always a beautiful day and everything, and it was always like a good experience. But I think just like eventually it just started to kind of wear on me, like emotionally and obviously physically, because it was a very physical job and whatnot. And having been kind of forced into the decision not to be like doing that anymore, I had free time and just, you know, with the way my brain is and like just like that, like I'm not very good at sitting still. I'm not very good at like really being stagnant. Like, I mean, lots of times I am, but I struggle a lot through that. And yeah, I don't know. It just kind of came up. I've had the camera for like a long time, and
But why pick up a camera? Like, why not something else?
I think it just easy access. Realistically, like I had it there, and I had like you know, I've been told by people that I have like a little bit of that eye, and you know, for me, actually, you know what? It originally kind of stemmed. A friend of mine who I knew was in this band had actually just reached out on Facebook and was like, "Hey, like I'm kind of want somebody to like film this show," and I just commented on it. I was like, "Yeah, I could do that." And then he actually called me and was like, "Yeah, this is kind of what we want to do," and blah blah blah, and we could, you know, even we could even pay you. And I was like, well, you know, like whatever. And he's like, well, you know, realistically, I'm just gonna pay you because I want to make sure you show up. Um, so I did, and from there, I just realized that I could go and shoot shows. So, and actually, realistically, all I've been doing is kind of following them around, and from that, I've made the connections I have, and I'm only just getting started. But the more I do it, the more I realize I want to continue doing it, and I want to get to a point where I'm going out almost every day, or at least every weekend, and just, you know, just wandering the strip in a sense, and just taking pictures of what
So
I see.
you got into it because somebody you know in a band was just like looking for somebody to shoot.
Yeah, and I had the knowledge, and I had the equipment, and I just kind of went and did it. And then, I mean, it took a while after that, like I don't know, like solid 4 months even after that experience, that I realistically, it was just that I had free time. People were wanting me to start coming to shows, and then I just,
So are you finding that you're like people are starting to get plugged into your work and
yeah,
are
and
seeking you out?
like very quickly, like, you know, I've been realistically only really been shooting for 3 months. I mean, you know, I've had my camera for 10 years, or pretty damn close, but uh, I've really only been active about it over the last 3 months, and even within, I guess, like the last like 2 weeks, I guess now, like just people are reaching out and wanting me to kind of like work on some of the things. Like people like my ideas. I've had people like offer me paid gigs, and I've kind of just been like not too worried about the money. I'm more worried about my content and like what I can provide for you with that. And, but like,
What do you mean by like you're worried about your content?
well, just with my content, like for me, like I guess what I'm doing is like, yeah, for me, I'm just trying to gather as much content for myself as best I can, and the easiest way for me to do that is to go to more and more shows. And when these people are like kind of offering me paid gigs or whatever, I'm kind of more like, well, just tell me when your next show is, and check my work, right? Like, let the work speak for itself. Like, though I'm like a, I don't know, I guess just that hustle there, right? Like, I've just been kind of not necessarily trying to sell myself, but I'm definitely trying to like push it out there. And you know, I've thrown out a couple lines in a sense, and I got a couple bites. I don't know, like it's just yeah, people have been
Are you happy with the work?
like my quality of work.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it could be better. Um, like I definitely have to. learn a little bit more about my camera. There's a lot. I mean,
Like, what do you mean? Like, you mean you're out there doing it and you don't know how the camera works, or?
well, I know how the camera like works, but there's definitely like more to the camera and like more to photography. I've never once stated that like I'm a photographer, right? Like by any means.
Uh-huh.
Like, yeah, that's what I'm doing, and like that's a decent skill set I have, but I'm not going around and going out to these people and like talking to bands being like, oh, I'm a photographer. I'm like, hey, I have a camera.
So how do you introduce yourself?
I don't think I really do.
You just put on a pirate hat and like
Pretty
walk into
much.
places with a camera.
Pretty much.
I'm good with the camera.
Like I think it's strictly that attitude, and like that just came from like a long time ago, like building this whole kind of character, and really he kind of just, it's just an essence of like that attitude of like I walk into a room and like it's mine, like that's where the whole captain perspective comes from. It's like I'm going in
Yeah,
there.
so you'll have to explain that. Like, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The one person that listens to this, they probably don't. No, I don't know. There's a few. So like, are you saying you put on a persona?
Yeah. So, well, I don't know if it's necessarily a persona. It's more of an act, I guess. Which I guess is similar, but like, really nothing changes with my personality.
Mm-hmm.
It's more, and honestly, the reason I think I kept it up and actually made it a thing is because, I walk into a room, and bouncers are very good with me. They're like, oh, okay, this guy is clearly an artist. He's dressed like a fucking pirate and has a camera. Like, obviously he's here to do photography. And like, I haven't had an issue. I did a show for, well, not for them, but I knew Massey was putting on a show at the Beercade, and I remember walking up, and I must have walked past like 100 people in this line, and it was a free show. Okay, so like there's that. I didn't have to pay regardless, but I walked past this entire lineup, and everybody's looking at me like, who the fuck is this fucking pirate, right? Like, and so I walk right up to the bouncer, and I kind of just lift the bag and kind of point and look, and I'm like, yeah, I'm here to shoot the show, and he's like, yeah. So I get let in the exit, and I'm right up the stairs and right to the back, and
The
I'm
perks
shooting.
of being a photographer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just easy access, I guess. And
So, but like, why do you feel the need to put on like an actor or persona?
I don't know if it ever like really came out in need, but I've definitely noticed, and it may be different. I like haven't really like tested that either, but like just it kind of keeps people away in a sense. Like it allows me to just kind of not worry about anyone, and kind of be focused on what I'm
Like,
doing.
what do you
Nobody
mean?
wants to talk to the crazy.
Like nobody's gonna come up and like mess with you if
No.
you're dressed as a pirate.
Nobody wants to talk to the pirate.
Oh, so then you're.
But
it's like your force field, and then you're able
Yeah.
to get the good shots.
Yeah, so like I don't have to deal with like just random people trying to get like because if I looked more like I don't know what they're called, but those photographers that are always at like nightclubs and they're taking all the drunken photos.
I think they call it a hipster.
Not that guy, the guy who's like paid to be there, and he's got the fancy flash. And he's always,
Like a nightlife photographer.
yeah, like that.
right.
Yeah, nightlife photographer. So
I think they're one and the same thing.
all right. Well, technically, I mean by me like putting.
Okay, but then like, what
Yeah.
makes you different from like that guy? Besides that guy.
Probably knows his skill a little better than
Yeah.
I do. I think again it comes down to attitude. Like for instance, like at that same show, very quickly so I didn't ask, right? So I got in there through the bouncer, walked straight to like where the stage was, which just so happened to be right by a coat check. So I gave him my coat and like some other shit that I didn't need, and then I kind of set up and I like went right on stage and took my other, because I usually wear like my big jacket and then like kind of like I guess like a blazer kind of thing, right? So whatever. So I go up right on stage where all these like DJs and like these production managers, or I don't know any of their technical titles, but like their whole little squad, I guess. And I just kind of set my camera bag down. I took off my jacket and started messing with my camera. And one of the guys came in and introduced himself, and was like, oh yeah, like you can blah blah blah, and like, you know, get in there and get some shots. And I kind of joked with him. And I was like, yeah, like as long as you guys don't mind me getting like right in your face, because that's just kind of like my thing. And
Like you hop on stage when you're shooting?
yeah, like right away.
You don't have respect for the band, or like.
Well, I
Stage
established like that. Like I'm not
like
going
you
up there
check
and
in
getting
with them first?
Yeah, like but
Okay.
like very loosely. Like I just make it very clear what I'm there to do, and then whether it's my attitude or my persona or whatever, like people are very open to how I want to do things. So I didn't want to stay on the stage. It was a very, very cramped stage. I was in there a little bit, but it was a little too tight for my lens and whatever. So I actually ended up going down the little set of stairs there, and they had all the bar stools set up, and I climbed up there, and I must have been like the tip of my head was probably like 12 feet in the air, so I could see the whole bar. I could see everybody's head. I was taller than anything in there, and like it just gave me like a really nice kind of back angle shot of the DJs, so I could get kind of their decks and the people. But one thing I noticed is, and this is where I was getting to, is the photographer that was there. And actually, I was taking shots from in front of the stage at this point, but the photographer that was there snuck around, and he was up on stage, and then he got like in really tight with the DJ, snapped 2 photos, and then I didn't see him the rest of the night. Right? And like for me, and like the way I like to do photography is because like as great as like the digital age is, that you can like press and hold a button and take 1,000 photos. That's not what I like to do. Like I don't think I've ever done that. I like to see something and try and get a shot. And like one thing I definitely know is that I need to learn my camera a little better, because I look for those angles and I look for those kind of captures, and then I miss them because I don't know my camera well enough. So it's a learning curve for me.
Yeah, like I think what's interesting, because I've seen you like out like shooting shows and stuff, and you know, like one time like I called you up and we went down. Like Ryan, the guy I typically work with, wasn't able to make a show, and we had like media passes, and we went down to
The Calgary one, or
yeah
yeah,
the Oshis
yeah,
to shoot, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, what I find interesting about you is like I think the majority of like I don't really enjoy the majority of photographers, because they
Yeah.
tend to have like a bit of a pompous like attitude, like they're like Vincent Van Gogh is like making great
yeah, but
like art.
they're just clicking a button.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I think that's
But-
true.
Yeah,
But like
go
that
on.
also probably like, but the fact that like cameras are so advanced and you don't have
Mhm.
that steep learning curve at the same time is probably like why you're in it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, but like that's not what I'm getting at. Like what I mean is that like for you, it's like I think the majority of photographers are like there and like capturing the show, but like you also kind of, it's like this kind of gonzo journalism approach to like
Mhm.
photography, where you like also become a part of the show. Like
Yeah.
that time that we were in Calgary seeing like the Oshis, like
Yeah.
like I'm in the pit like doing like my thing, and then I look up and you're like shirtless, like
Laying
behind this
under a
band.
bass player, taking a picture.
Yeah,
of
like
his,
behind them,
balls,
like-
pretty much, right? Well, yeah, and like that's just you know, I even got called out at what was that, Electric Audrey 2's show, and I can't remember his name, but yeah, he actually used to play in the Ray Guns. He was the bass player with the Bumblebee bass. But anyway, so I'm taking shots, and like, you know, like a lot of the times, because my lens is a very like it's a portrait lens, right? So it's very close up. I mean, eventually I got to get a new lens, but it's just what I've had, and it's what I've used, and it's what I've learned. But you know, I'm laying down in front of them playing, and because I'm just trying to get them low angle shots, and so I'm like, you know, moving around, taking photos between my legs while I'm like laying on the ground and whatnot. And he called me out after he finished the song. He's like, "What the hell are you doing down there? Shooting porn?" And like calls me out in front of everybody, right? So everybody's laughing. And I think a lot of the persona definitely comes from that. I guess that a little bit of an artistic need to kind of be the center of attention and kind of like be a part of that show, right? Because like I do really enjoy by like doing this persona that I do get noticed, though people don't really want to come talk to the captain. Is like people like I still get to be a part of the show in a sense, right? And like I think for me that's like half the reason I do it, because I like to be out there, and it, like, a lot of it actually.
So is it more like the performance aspect of it?
Like, how do you mean? Like, just the fact
Like
that
going
I'm
out to shows. Like it's not like you're just going out to like a show and shoot it, but like you're going out to a show and like becoming a part
Mm-hmm.
of like the overall thing, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like on like what we posted on like the chump stuff for you.
Yeah.
It's that like you bring this like more energy than the majority of like the bands.
Well, as soon as I
that
read
you're
that,
shooting.
I laughed, because that is, I wouldn't say with all of them, but there's definitely some characters out there that like, I don't know, for me with the photography and everything, like when I'm taking a photo, like I'm really trying to capture like the passion in somebody's words. So when they're singing a song that, like whatever, maybe some cover, you don't really catch that, but when you get that odd chance that they're singing a song that they may have wrote or just like really connect with, and you just get that one quick snippet of like their feeling, and like maybe not everybody can see it in my photos, but I do, because like those are the moments that I capture, and like a lot of the times, and you'll never hear it obviously because it's photography, but a lot of the photos are like during those really intense moments, right? And it seems that a lot of times you capture that intensity in the bands and stuff, and I some of the shows I've gone to, and you just like, you don't see that intensity. It's like, well, what are you doing on stage? Like, like the,
Yeah, I think it, like if you're a band and you're playing a show, I don't like people don't come out to necessarily hear your music. Like it's the overall thing. If you just wanted to,
it's a show.
Yeah,
it's a show. Like, and I can honestly say, like, it's pretty rare I go to a show specifically because of the music. Like there's bands that I personally follow and personally would like to see their shows, but some of the other random ones are kind of either one to establish connections, or because there's like the extra little piece there. Like the show at Beercade for me was a big venue that I've been wanting to get into, because I really kind of wanted to be noticed in that age group, and I figured that was a way to do it. And then Massey was there, and I think they're doing great things. Like they're involved with like all the bookings for like a lot of the DJs, like with Astral and here and around the city.
Yeah.
So, and like just out of that, I've already like established that connection where like they're wanting me to go to the next show. They're talking about maybe hiring me, and like that's up to them, because that's the quality of work. And I like, again, like I try not to oversell my work, because I know it's not the greatest, but I can sell myself. And that's, I think, a lot of that.
but then like how do you balance that? Like are you ever concerned that you're going to like promise too much or get into a position that you can't deliver on? Or
I definitely think it's a concern, but just with my personality and stuff, like so far I haven't promised anything that I couldn't deliver, and I've never really been faced with a problem that I couldn't solve. And I don't think, I mean, yeah, it's something that I'm sure I could accidentally slip into, where I may have stepped out of my skill level or whatever, but as of yet, no. Like I really just, like, again, I try not to sell my skill level. I try to sell like my persona, and like that attitude, and like that motivation to like, I want to be at your shows. I want to capture your guys to give you more content, because it's
like,
content
why?
for me and it's content for them.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's quality they like or not, I could care less, because it's my content. If they want to pay me for that, well then at that point that's their choice. But I do things my way.
So like, so are you saying that it's like up to the audience to like it's attach if it's like good or not? Like what's your approach here? Like is it just to like produce like an abundance of content and let the audience sort it out?
Yeah, pretty much. Because for me, like
But like why is like that approach? Because I think
well, I don't think that that's necessarily like my approach. Like that's
Yeah.
like the goal by any means. But like for me, it's just me going out and doing it. Like
yeah,
and
producing.
Yeah.
But I think the majority of like a lot of creatives like slave over like capturing the perfect image and like striving
No.
for this perfection.
No, like definitely that is something I want to work towards, and like learn the craft, and like become better. But for me, like the only way I'm going to do that is by doing it more.
Mm-hmm.
And quite honestly, I could care less what people feel about my content, because it was just something for me to do, and it got me out of the house, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Yes. But then is it like becoming like a weird thing? Because you just started off as getting out of the house, and now it seems like it's getting a little bit of traction, and there's like people within the scene or whatever that want to work with you.
Mm-hmm. I definitely feel that I got a little ahead of myself out of nowhere, but I kind of took a step back, and and even just like talking with Chump and stuff, and kind of communicating with you guys, it's been that, okay, I got to settle a little bit and kind of like come into my own kind of ground here, and like I think a lot of that is just kind of going and establishing that I'm just kind of the guy that's at all the shows and just trying.
So, like, do you think it's quantity over quality? Like how do you? Because I think in the modern times it's really hard to stand out. Like I think the internet has kind of very much like democratized things. There's no longer gatekeepers, but now everybody has access to the ability, especially with photography, to the ability to create and then to publish this work on like an international like scale. So then like how do you like stand out? Like in your opinion, is it like, do you like double down on like the quality of work, or do you just produce a lot of work and like hope that something sticks or something?
Well, I mean, quality over quantity is always the best approach, but
that doesn't seem like it's your approach.
I don't know if I really have an approach though. Like realistically, like it just kind of happened, and like I haven't even had the time to like really, like, truth be told, I don't consider myself an artist at all.
Why is that?
I'm not making anything.
What do you mean?
Like I'm capturing something, but I'm really not like going out there.
So would you say that about like all photographers?
Not to offend anyone, but I think photographers are capturing art. I don't necessarily think they're making it. Well, and there is something to be said that, like, in a sense, they're creating art by capturing that moment, and like that's what, like, personally for myself, that I relate to is more of a creator than like an artist.
Yeah, okay, so then like what's the difference between being like a creative or a creator and like an artist in your opinion?
Again, I think just attitude. I've met, and not to say all artists, because I love artists, but I've met quite a few artists that, like, again, with, like, we were talking with photographers, and like that kind of pompous attitude. It seems like a lot of artists are just like, well, I'm an artist. It's like, okay, what have you done? Oh, well, I've painted these 3 photos in my room. Cool. Like, I don't know, like, so, but then again, like, that comes down to quality over quantity.
But then, like, who is it to decide, like, who is and who isn't an artist?
I think the beholder, right? I don't consider
the
myself.
Audience?
No. Like, for instance, if you consider yourself an artist,
okay,
you're an artist.
Okay.
Right? No one can take that away from you, because that's what you view in yourself, right?
So then, like, the work that I create, if I consider it art, is it also art?
Well, that's art. Art is whatever you say it is.
But, like, who? Like, if me as the person that's producing it say that it's
if you
art,
drew a line on a piece of paper and said it was art, to you it's art.
Like, if I say it's art.
Yeah.
See, I disagree with that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's creative expression, right?
Yeah.
So, like, if I'm, like, painting in my room and then nobody's seeing that or whatever, like, I think that's creative expression. But I think, like, creative expression becomes art when you stick it in front of an audience, and then an audience attached meaning with it. So
Fair.
there's, like, paintings like that where it's like a red square, and like, is that art? Well, like, I think that's art because
people are
like an audience decided that it was art, and an audience attached
okay, yeah,
meaning
I
to
can
it.
see
Like,
what
I think it's kind of a pompous attitude to come from it as like a creative and be like, this is art, and it's like, no, man, it's a shitty poem.
Well, yeah, but like that's just kind of what I'm stating, is that there is that like creative side to people, and there's a lot of people that are out there doing that kind of level. But then there's also the people that are just out there and like, well, I'm an artist, and it's like, well, why are you an artist? And it's like, well, I did this thing. And I mean, I think you're right, and like art doesn't become art until people view it. That actually really makes sense. But I've also met people that they just have that attitude where it's like, well, I made this and it's now art, right?
Mm-hmm.
But no, that makes sense. That once you put it,
Are you changing your opinion on something?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh shit.
Definitely, actually.
Do you find that there's like a lot more artists in our generation, or people claiming to be artists? Like, is it fashionable to be
Like,
a
compared
creative
to
now?
what though? Like I would definitely say it's trendy, to be like that, kind of hipster artist kind of style, right? Like everybody, like I grew up and like people started, like I slowly started to see film cameras pop up, and then it seemed like, again, it got trendy. And even with that cool pics, what the hell's that, Polaroid kind of thing, right?
Oh, like the Instax?
Yeah, Instax,
yeah.
or whatever. Yeah, like those, just more film kind of started to pop back up. And I mean,
Why do you think that is?
I think it's just like that hipster thing of having an old fashioned. It's just like people buying typewriters. It's that.
I got a typewriter.
Well, I know.
It's right over there.
You also have a film camera.
Yeah, I got a lot of
I
those.
think it's just that relation to like the old times, and just like.
But no, like I mean, like, cause, well, like you've seen that in like over the last couple of years. There's this
Like exponentially though.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
almost as like bucking the trend, right? So like technology has always been like, oh yeah, I gotta get the next greatest thing.
Yeah.
But then it seems for like our kind of age group, there's this like adapting of old technology. Like vinyls
Yeah.
are cool, and like cassette tapes are cool, and
Yeah.
shooting
Well,
film.
for vinyl, it's better quality, and like with
Well, not that's debatable.
Sure, okay, let's say that's debatable, but just hear me out. So vinyl, we all can say that it has a more, how do I put that? But
Like I think like the overall like
It has some-
experience of
yeah.
listening to a vinyl is better.
yeah,
But,
it has like more of an emotional
sound quality, not necessarily.
Yeah, like that could, I'm sure, be proven wrong, but I think just like that emotional attachment,
Okay.
in a sense, to vinyl, and like how, like just the process of whatever. So like, the hell are we talking about? Vinyl.
Well, it's like that. It's just like, do you think like people are, because like so much of our life now are like on digital, right? And if it's like if you shoot a digital photo, it's like not there. Like there's like a huge period of my life where there's not any documentation because it was on digital cameras, and like whatever computer it was backed
Yeah.
up on to
Yeah.
is like gone. And I've also heard
But-
stories of like new parents who their phone goes into the water, and then it's like the first
Well, a
3
friend of
years
mine's
the kid's
laptop
life.
got like, so all the photos she had taken on her phone and put on her laptop got destroyed by a coffee.
Yeah.
Not my
So, like,
fault.
Sounds like it might have been your fault.
I didn't leave the coffee there.
All right.
Who leaves a full coffee by a computer with all your like, whatever? All right.
So it was your fault.
No.
But okay, like the point.
Anyway.
The point I'm trying to get to is like,
Yeah.
do you feel that we're like just starved for real things? Like that's why we're becoming real.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, and what I was gonna get at is like with typewriters and stuff. I think it's allowing yourself that disconnect, and having, you press a button on a typewriter, and it has a little mechanical action that presses, say you press an H, well,
Well,
there's
you
an
can
H.
feel the response.
Yeah,
right?
it's right there, right? And I think, with technology that now, even though everything is right there for us, like I think I'm trying to find the right word, but it's like it is that emotional connection, and just really not having the digital get in the way, right? That analog feel, I think, is something that.
Well, I think it allows you to get like into deeper thought, right? Like if I'm going to listen to a vinyl record, like that's kind of what I'm doing. Like I might be doing some other stuff around the house,
Yeah.
but it's like I'm committing to that. Where if
Well,
I'm
and it's a
listening,
process.
yeah, you
Yeah.
gotta like handle it and flip it. But then
Mhm.
if I'm listening to like the same track on my laptop, like I'm probably
I'm not
like
gonna be paying as much
taking in a
attention.
bunch of like other content, and
Yeah.
then there's all those like digital things.
Well,
And
well, even for me, like I occasionally do the odd writing, and I mean, and it's something I should probably do a little bit more. But I've like even in school, I couldn't write on a computer. Like, you know, when they would say you gotta write this essay or whatever, and sit you in the computer lab, I can do it. Like, I mean, I can write. I'm a
Mhm.
decent writer in my own mind, but I just, for me, like, it was always easier to have like a little journal or whatever, and just, you know, wake up with a pencil. And, you know, even that, I prefer a pencil over a pen. I couldn't tell you why.
Yeah, I
My
find
writing
that-
looks nicer, it comes out cleaner, and it flows better for
Yeah.
whatever reason. And it's just like having, I think the less connections you kind of have, I feel like things flow. Like, there's something very earthy about, you know, taking a pencil made of wood with, you know, well, now it's graphite in there, and then you're writing on paper. There's just something there,
like,
right?
you feel like there's like
There's more of a connection to it,
Okay.
I think. And again, I think it's. I mean, everybody's different, but it's that process, and I think, you know, for me, like a pencil and a piece of paper is just like ease and peace in a sense, and I think it allows things to just flow.
Yeah, well, like I get that. Like because I write, like my writing process is that, which is like for me to get good work, like I tend to have to be away from the computer, and it's
Yeah.
like I do it all by hand, and then like type it up, and then
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Oh, and that's
I mean, it's not the like efficient way, and it like really
No.
sucks when you have a bunch of like tight deadlines and you gotta turn out
Type-o-list,
like
yeah.
articles. But yeah, like I agree with what you're saying there. It kind of allows you to get into it, and I think like my big concern with like I guess like our generation of creatives is like it doesn't seem we allow ourselves a lot of time to be like away from the technology and to be like bored and like not doing anything
Yeah.
to like get into those deep thoughts. And I think the deep thought is where like the good work comes from, because otherwise you're like responding. It's like what's the trend, like what filter on Instagram is going to give me like the most likes.
And I've never had that real connection to the digital world, and the, you know, like, yeah, I have a Facebook, but it's
But then how do you balance the two?
like, how do you mean?
Well, because
Like, I
because
do-
like so much of our life happens now on like the digital.
For me,
like,
it's like it's communication, right?
Mhm.
Like, unfortunately, you can't really survive in the modern world without, you know, a smartphone, because it's like that ease of communication. Yeah, you could still have a flip phone and whatever, but
Right.
try text T9 on the damn thing, right?
yeah, T9ing on
Yeah,
the flip
so
phone sucks.
it sucks, right? So it's that drawback, and I think for me, like that digital, that whole digital aspect is like way too disconnected for me. Like, even for me, I would much rather phone a friend than text a friend, just because I want to be able to gauge their reaction. And a lot of people are like, well, then I can't like type an emotional response. I'm like, well, why would I want to give you time to figure out what you're going to respond? No.
Fair.
Like, I want to look somebody in the eye and hear what they have to say about me, honestly.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you were talking about that whole being bored thing, and like, I think this whole thing just came from that. You know, I wasn't working. I was at home, and I was doing nothing but really like sleeping around, kind of bumming around, and, you know, like, thank God there was snow outside, and I like the cold, so what I do, I was bored. I started going outside and shoveling snow and shoveling more snow and shoveling more snow until I had a 100-foot snow dragon in my front yard.
How does that tie into the photography?
Just because I was bored and I had to go do something. And then
Cool.
that's where like photography came from, and those deep thoughts, you know, like just being out there shoveling snow or doing photography, like the amount of ideas, and no, they're only ideas, that I have like in that kind of silence. Like, I leave my phone inside.
Mhm.
And I go outside and I shovel snow, and people try and get a hold of me, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's my time. And and photography is that for me. It's my little escape when you're looking through that little viewfinder. And to quote a photographer that I don't remember his name, I was watching the documentary on Netflix. You might know the one. He's like the 70s rock and roll photographer.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever his name is. A lot of this timeline is very interesting now that I really think about it, because like I'd watched that and we'd been talking and some other things, and you know, he said it, and he the state of mind he was explaining that he gets into, like I relate to a lot, because when I'm holding my camera and looking through my viewfinder and trying to like find those moments, you do feel like an assassin. Like you said, you're pointing, you're aiming, and you're shooting, right? And it's just you, that viewfinder, and whatever you're trying to capture, and nothing else really matters. Like I've been in rooms with 1,000 people, and I can't tell you what the hell might have happened in that room, but I remember everything that happened in and around that stage. Like to the point where, again, like back at this beer cage show, I was up on those stools and looking over everybody, and this little young kid, whatever, goes up and wants to request a song. Well, it's not just your run-of-the-mill, Friday night DJ that's gonna put whatever top 40 song you want. Like there's wooden so, don't quote me on that, but so it's these two DJs and they feed off each other, right? So one guy kind of does something, then the other guy takes that and whatever, right? So they're constantly working off each other, and it's really cool. You don't see that level of like connection between a lot of artists very often, but anyway, so this kid comes up, he's talking to the one DJ, and he's like obviously requesting a song, and I'm kind of laughing, like looking at this whole situation, because I'm like, who does this kid think he is, trying to get, like, these are artists, like, leave them alone. And then I'm laughing to myself. I'm like, just because the kid took out his phone and like typed whatever song he wanted, and like right in the dude's face, and he's trying to do his stuff, and I'm just looking at this kid shaking my head like, what the fuck are you doing, right? And I start laughing to myself. I'm like, take his phone, just take his phone. Somebody just take his phone. It's right there. Take his phone. Sure enough, the producer guy, one of the guys from Massey, walks up and snatches his phone, puts it in the pocket, and kind of gives him the, fuck off, right? And the kid just, like, really, come on, kind of like, give me my phone back. Oh, I'm all sad and stuff. So, and I was like, don't give it back. But, the guy must have felt kind of bad, and he, like, knew that he couldn't, like, just keep the kid's phone, right? So he walks back over and gives the kid his phone, and the kid's like, oh, yeah, and fuck you, big middle finger, and walks off. But because I had the like line of sight that I did, I saw him leave the stage, leave the dance area, and he came walking around. And when I saw him coming, I was like, he can't be that stupid. So I started looking around for bouncers, and there was none in this little corner area, and I'm like, shit, right? So I start kind of climbing down off, 10 feet of stools, and quickly try to sweat my camera down, because now he's getting past me, and he gets up the little, I don't know, maybe 5 little steps or 10 at most, and he gets up there, and he's in the face of this producer guy, and there's like a little bit of a shove from the kid or something, and then one of the girls was like, I'm getting security, and I just snuck up behind the kid, and I was like, good enough for me, and I just like swooped him, right, like I just like right under the shoulder, dragged him down these stairs, and like brought him up to the fire exit that was like no more than like 10-15 feet away from like where this altercation happened. And then at that point, all these bouncers came running in, and I'm getting kind of shoved out the door, and I'm like, I didn't really do anything, I shouldn't have grabbed him, but what? And then like the producers and like one of the bouncers that obviously must have seen it was like, no, he's good. So they kind of cut me off from this big crazy mess now, and then whatever, they're talking to this kid and everything, and then the Massey guys, all the DJs that were there, anyone who was related to the Massey Fellowship that was kind of working this show there, like just came up and was like, wow, man, like thanks, like you were there, and like, like that's so cool. And like at that point they were like, who are you, like what are you doing, like what are you doing here, like what photography, like I want to know your work. Whereas before they were like, oh yeah, you can take some photos, right? But then they wanted to know, because I went and put my persona in that whole aspect of, I'm a little bit of like that protective nature, and like don't mess with artists, man.
Yeah.
Like let them be.
I think we're gonna end it there. Is there anything you want to add?
Like a sign off. I don't know. Ask me a good sign off question.
Yeah, I think that is.